Breaking news, you spit on somebody, you get a game. Okay? NFL suspending Ja'Marr Chase 1 game for spitting at Jalen Ramsey after that scuffle in the second half of Sunday's Steelers win. Now, after the game, Ramsey said Chase spit on him. Chase denied that, but there's video. And barring an appeal, Chase is going to be out when the Bengals host the Patriots Sunday on CBS and Paramount+. Let's get Ryan Wilson in here. Ryan, we've seen this from a couple of different players now in the NFL. You probably remember when Roberto Alomar spit on an umpire back in the 90s in baseball. That was like the biggest story in sports for a week. Is 1 game enough?
I'm laughing, Chris, because you would know that I would know about an early 90s baseball player spitting on someone else. That's right in my wheelhouse. I'm happy to admit Roberto Alomar was my favorite baseball player back in the day. But, yes, that is a stain on his legacy. You forget about all the on-field stuff. 1 game, it feels like it's the going rate for spitting on a player in the NFL this season. Jalen Carter did it in Week 1. He got suspended. And I will just say this. It feels like of all the things that happen in football, and spitting's been going on for as long as there's been football, or what happens at the bottom of a pile that we can't see, spitting feels like it's a bridge too far, and it's the one thing that will cause the person who is the recipient of getting spit on to lose their mind. And we saw that with, especially when it lands on you. We saw that with what happened with Jalen Ramsey, who said afterwards when he's asked about it, he spit on me, so it's up. I don't give a Franklin about football after that, respectfully. And that's sort of how you feel. Now, if the NFL wants to take a closer look at this in the offseason and decide that spitting, which is pretty reprehensible, is worth more than a 1-game suspension, they can do that. I think, look, Ja'Marr Chase might be of the opinion that he needs a break from football given how this season has gone for him. So maybe this is more vacation than punishment. But for all intents and purposes, the Bengals season was over whether Ja'Marr was going to play or not. He is now going to have to sit out. He will lose a game check, which I think will be close to $500,000. And then he can think about his actions while the Bengals struggle to win next week as well.
Yeah, that's the bigger punishment, the loss of the nearly $500,000 game check. By the way, Roberto Alomar had a 5-game suspension for spitting at an umpire, but it's baseball, 162 games and all that. You just said it. The season's over for the Bengals anyway. So what do you think they should do about Joe Burrow, who reportedly is working to come back next week?
They should leave him. I mean, there's no reason to play. Look, I understand the competitive nature and the type A personalities when we talk about professional athletes in general, but explain to me the upside of bringing Joe Burrow back on a 3-7 team where the defense is tackling optional every single week, and you've had demoralizing losses recently to the Jets. The Bears was a game, shout out to you as a Bears fan, but for everyone in Cincinnati, I don't know how you lived through that. And then the Steelers game, they no-showed for that game after Joe Flacco had sort of his resurgence coming out party when those teams first met. There is no reason on planet Earth that Joe Burrow should come back because, number one, he has a long injury history, and a lot of the injuries are sort of freakish injuries and things that it's hard to explain given how guys usually get hurt on a football field. And number two, I don't know what the future holds for the coaching staff or the front office, and whoever takes this job is going to want a healthy franchise quarterback because when Joe Burrow is healthy, he is one of the top 2 or 3 players in the NFL, and we've seen that because he's made this offense what it is in spite of the defense year in and year out. Last year, he was banged up, and they still almost made the playoffs when he came back. So I think you just hit the reset button, and you hit it as many times as possible. That includes Joe Burrow not playing. That includes figuring out a whole bunch of stuff in the offseason, including that defense. They currently have the number 9 pick. The most Bengals thing ever, Chris, would bring Joe Burrow back. They end up winning 8 games and missing the playoffs, and they pick in the 20s as opposed to trying to reset everything that's been wrong with this franchise the last few years that Joe Burrow has basically been a huge Band-Aid for.
It would be the 3rd consecutive year that they missed the postseason. We know you followed the draft closely. You know where they're projected to pick right now, number 9 overall. Where do they need the biggest help other than, you can just say everywhere on defense, other than maybe pass rusher with Trey Hendrickson? But what do they need to do this offseason to set them up for success?
They need to find a way to get a top 10 pick. And then you can have the conversation about whether you want to trade down and stockpile picks and do something like the Raiders did, allowing the Falcons to move up, or do something like the Falcons did, which is draft 2 edge rushers. But as they sit here currently at 9, Reuben Bain Jr. would be a great choice. He is going to be a top 10 pick by all accounts, and he is automatic electricity. They drafted Shamar Stewart last year in the first round. He looked the part physically, crisp, but he never had the production at Texas A&M. He is currently on IR. Trey Hendrickson didn't play last week because of injury. He does not want to be in Cincinnati, and that's been the case for several years now. The other thing I think makes a ton of sense after watching that Bears game, Caleb Downs, a safety out of Ohio State, one of the best players in this draft class. But whenever I mention that on social media or on the podcast, the usual response is, why would you do that to Caleb Downs? I think Caleb Downs would be up to the challenge. He would be a huge asset to that secondary. If there was a way to get an edge rusher and a safety, a Reuben Bain Jr. and a Caleb Downs, and it cost you like the first round pick, what it cost the Falcons to move back up into round 1 this last draft, I think you do it, because the offense can find a way with Joe Burrow. The defense has no chance week in and week out. And as Paul Dana wrote for The Athletic, who covers the Bengals, this is not a professional football team as it currently stands. And that's mostly because the defense has been underwhelming, and that's to use a phrase lightly, not only this season, but in years past. And that's part of the reason Lou Anarumo got run out of town, is now in Indianapolis with the Colts.
2-0 start with Joe Burrow starting, but they've won just 1 game since that injury. Ryan Wilson with us here on HQ as Burrow potentially works his way back, but Jamar Chase suspended for 1 game with a spitting incident on Jalen Ramsey. HQ, your place for NFL 365 news, highlights, scores, and breaking news like you just saw.